And welcome to another edition of Ben's Junk, the show where the waiting really does make it that much sweeter. And when I say waiting, I'm really referring to another one of my little projects that I take on for reasons that I'm not even too sure of. And so what you're looking at here is the Sony TT-100, Tuner Timer 100. And Sony introduced a little history lesson here. I'm sure a lot of you know this already, but in 1971, Sony introduced the U-Matic, which was the first major stab at video cassettes, and a precursor to the VCR as we came to know it. But I believe the first recordable U-Matics, I believe the very first ones you could not record on, but once they came out with the recordable ones, they had tuners and timers built into the VCR. But for whatever reason, they very quickly did away with that, and they made it so that you had to have this separate brick of a machine, gigantic brick. And so, the VCRs, you could record, but they didn't have a way of setting a timer or anything to record while you were away. And so this sucker cost, I believe, about $400 at the time. And the U-Matics were between $1,500 and $1,800, I believe. Now, multiply that by 5, and you'll have it adjusted for inflation as of my making this video. So you could call it really about, in today's dollars, about $10,000 for what you're about to see. And so let's take a cut here. This is definitely going to be one of those kind of auto exposure, auto focus sort of episodes, kind of guerrilla style, but we need to be able to really get in and look at everything. And we'll cap it off with a demo of this, and you can see it in action, and you can see how the 200 people that bought this thing at the time were recording their shows. Okay, so here's the back of the machine, and you got the little things to unscrew and put in the little pitchforks for an antenna. Remember those? I'm not going to use those for two reasons. One, I don't have anything like that, and two, I'm not an expert, but I don't know if that would really work these days. I'm not sure if there's anything left that would work with digital stuff. I could be wrong. I'm sure somebody in the peanut gallery will tell me. But here's where things get a little counterintuitive. Now, if you remember the Ben's Junk I did on the Sony DT-30, Digital Timer 30, it was an early external timer for the early Betamax units. And it changes the signal flow. I guess you could say it really reverses it, because it's actually the timer that gets plugged into the wall. So there's the plug for this. And this becomes the heart of it. So I've got the power for the U-Matic here, just magically, and it actually gets plugged into here. So it changes the signal flow, and I guess maybe coming from a slightly later generation, it seems a little counterintuitive, but that is how it works. And let's look at the other two cables. This is the AV output to the VCR. It's an 8-pin thingy. Plugs into the back, locks in, and to take it out, you just press the little pins on the side. And then here's where things, I'm not sure if I'm just slamming headfirst into the changes in broadcasting since this thing was made, or if it just doesn't work. Everything looks okay when I open it up. All the connections are good. Everything's solid, but the RF in, which is just a good old coax, I cannot get it to take signal. So I've tried to hook it up to a digital TV converter box. I've tried hooking it up to my old VHS and my Beta, and it just will not take anything. And or maybe it has to work in tandem with this, who knows. I can get just noise through the VCR, but doesn't really do a whole lot. So let's take another cut here. I'll have this all set up, and I'll show you my setup, and we'll try and come as close as possible as you can in 2016 to recording something the old-fashioned way. Okay, I've got everything set up here, and isn't that lovely? That nice weak orange glow at this point. In fact, let me turn off the light just so you can see it, because it's so pretty. But anyway, let's take a look at how this thing works, and we'll take a look at my signal flow, and we'll take a stab at this. So what we got on the top here is the VHF and UHF tuners and a couple of switches, and nothing works unless this is on. So I can't even turn on the VCR right now. But hey. And to access UHF, you have to go a notch below channel 2. So I'll just show you that real quick here. Channel 3 right now, that's 2, and UHF. And then you can go from 14 up to, I believe it's 83. But this is actually completely immaterial to this test, because we are running actually directly into the VCR. This will still be an off-air recording, just a little more modern. So here's a digital converter box, and this might be one of the ones that the government was handing out back in '09 during the digital TV switch. I picked it out of a thrift store bin for $2, I think. But also $2 was this antenna, which may or may not have come with it. So we got that, and we're running RCA out into the U-Matic, so the channels and stuff don't really matter. And the two switches here, in this case, they don't matter. And as for the source switch, it doesn't matter, period. Because according to... my camera doesn't want to focus today. According to the manual for the U-Matic, for this model, 2600, this just doesn't make any difference. So, yeah. And in fact, this doesn't matter. AFT. I don't know what that stands for. I don't have the manual for this particular unit, but I've tested this thing both ways, on and off. It doesn't affect a thing. So, yeah. Let's try and set the timer here. So you can go in 15-minute increments to record here. And you got this knob here, 2 parts, and then the outer part changes the clock, and you can't go back. So if you mess up, you have to go through all 24 hours again. And indeed, the timer part is the same way. So this just does not want to work today. Yeah, there's no going back. But let's set this for, I guess, 6 o'clock is the nearest. I think that's about right. But let's get the VCR set up here. Here's today's tape. It's only a 5-minuter, so I can do a full test. And there was probably something on this at some point, given the label, but when I got it, it was blank. So it was probably bulk erased at some point. And it's a good tape. I've tested it. It's not sticky or anything. So, moving on. And I swear, every time I get something fixed around here, something else dies. So the audio VU meters, there's supposed to be a pilot light in there. And it burned out just after I got the tuner timer. So I can never seem to keep everything working. But let's get this going here. We'll hit the eject button. And then we can monitor what we're recording by hitting the record button. It won't do anything. It's just a monitor, because these old things, you have to hit record and play, or forward in this case. So I don't even know what's on right now. Looks like we got us a commercial here. And yeah, so everything looks good. I checked the audio earlier with these two little knobs with the headphone jack, and they're good and even. So tracking is in the fixed position. Everything's good. Input select is online because we're running directly into the machine. And everything's happy, I think. So let's turn this off. And to use this thing, and this is what held me back for a long time, there's a part, and this is so cheesy, but there's a part that locks over all these buttons that it receives a little charge. There's little rubber nubs on the underside of it, and it hits the record and forward button for you. And I don't even know where I put it, so I'll have to take a cut here and show you the rest. And here's the missing piece of the puzzle. The FA20 recording adapter, and these things actually came with the VCRs, but I think most people just threw them out, and these things are just stupid rare now, unfortunately, and it took me forever to get my hands on one of these, and it seemed a little silly when I did because it's so cheesy the way it works. Here's the piece. Got a little latch and a little hinge that goes into the VCR itself over the record buttons. And on the underside, you got two little rubber nubbies here that when the timer goes off, so to speak, it sends just enough of a charge through these that it's enough pressure to hit the record and forward button on the deck. Isn't that just lame? And there's no way to set an end time for recording either, so you just have to record all the way through the tape, or just shut it off yourself if you happen to be here. But let's get this hooked up. Okay, we got that. And we'll turn on the timer thingy. And, of course, no power can get to it right now. It chokes the power when you have the timer on. The show begins at 6 o'clock, if I set this right. We'll find out. I'm going to take a cut here, and hopefully this thing will go off. And if not, I'll just reset.
What do my children have to do with it?
Everything. Or nothing.
You have access from the containment level again tomorrow. We'll meet at the usual place an hour before your shift. You will assure me then that the deal will be closed, or the consequences will be most unfortunate. I will give you...
Let's call it a down payment.
And we're just kind of stuck.
And 2 hours later, which point...
Because, you know, if you're not here to take the cover off. So cheesy, isn't it? Anyway, that's just about it for this edition of Ben's Junk. I'll leave you with a couple of brief excerpts from the tape, and I'll see you again soon.
Dr. Lamont, didn't expect to find you in the vault hour. This isn't your shift, is it?
They're going to be there to help you afterwards. something happens.
If you become a victim of identity theft, LifeLock will spend up to $1 million on experts and lawyers to help fix it.
You have this whole team of people on your side, and you know that you don't have to go it alone.
Start your LifeLock membership right now.
What do my children have to do with it?
Everything. Or nothing.